There's a strange moment when you realize the life you're living might not be the one your body was built for. Just stay with that thought for a moment. Nothing dramatic happened. Nothing broke overnight. It simply drifted, quietly, until most of us forgot what was lost. Most people don't remember the first time their body stopped feeling dependable. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an illness with a name. It was subtler than that. A heaviness after meals. A fog that settled into the mornings. An exhaustion that sleep is no longer fixed. And somewhere along the way, we were told this was normal. That modern life is demanding. That stress is inevitable. That aging starts earlier now. But sometimes, the discomfort isn't coming from stress at all. Sometimes, it's coming from something far more ordinary. Something so common we barely notice it. Bread. Not the idea of bread. Not the memory of bread. But the thing we buy, slice, toast, and eat without thinking. There is a reason this matters more than we've been told. And the answer isn't found in trends, labels, or arguments. It is buried quietly in history, in a time when bread was not a problem to solve, but a foundation to stand on. We live inside a story where convenience equals advancement, where speed equals intelligence, where shelf life equals safety. In this story, food is fuel. Neutral, interchangeable, optimized. Bread is supposed to be simple. Cheap calories, soft texture, consistent taste, available everywhere. If it's enriched, fortified, sliced, and sealed, it must be better than what came before. After all, the past was harsh. The past was ignorant. The past didn't understand nutrition. That is the story. But notice how often modern explanations stop short. They talk about vitamins, but not digestion. They talk about calories, but not absorption. They talk about abundance, but not resilience. Modern bread is engineered to meet metrics. Production speed, uniformity, profit margin. Not the long, slow relationship between food and the human body. And because the decline happened gradually, no alarm bells rang. We adapted. Or rather, we endured. In medieval Europe, bread was not a side dish. It was the meal. Across villages, towns, monasteries, and farms, bread formed the backbone of daily life. But this bread was nothing like what sits on modern shelves. Grain was local, often stone ground, freshly milled. The flour still held its germ and bran. Its oils were intact, its minerals untouched. Water came from wells or springs. And fermentation, real fermentation, was not optional. The dough rested for hours, sometimes days. Wild yeasts and bacteria transformed the grain slowly, not to improve flavor alone, though it did, but to make the grain digestible. In monasteries, bakers understood this deeply. They observed how long-fermented bread sustained monks through fasting, labor, and prayer. On farms, families noticed which loaves satisfied hunger and which caused discomfort. This knowledge wasn't written in textbooks. It was carried in hands, in habits, in repetition. In early America, the pattern continued. Colonial bread relied on sourdough starters passed between generations. Grain varieties were diverse. Hard wheats, soft wheats, rye, spelt, barley. Each region adapted to its land. Bread rose with time, not additives. It nourished bodies that worked long days under real physical strain. And remarkably, chronic digestive illness was rare. Not because life was easy, it wasn't tea, but because food was aligned with the body's design. Grains are not simple foods. They contain complex starches, proteins, natural defense compounds. Left untreated, many of these compounds irritate the human gut. Medieval bakers didn't know chemistry, but they understood the outcome. Fermentation breaks grain down before you eat it. Enzymes begin digesting starches. Proteins soften. Phytic acid, which blocks mineral absorption, is reduced. The result is bread that your body recognizes. One that releases energy slowly. That supports stable blood sugar. That feeds beneficial gut bacteria instead of overwhelming them. Modern bread skips this process. Fast yeast. High heat. Rapid rise. The dough barely has time to become bread at all. What you eat is structurally unfinished. Your body is forced to complete the work, repeatedly, day after day. And it's not built for that. This isn't about nostalgia. It's about biology. If this is changing how you see food, let the algorithm know by liking this video. The shift didn't happen because bakers forgot. It happened because systems changed. Industrial milling removed bran and germ to extend shelf life. Refined flour resisted spoilage. Transported easily. Stored indefinitely. Commercial yeast shortened fermentation from hours to minutes. Time became an expense. Patience became inefficiency. Factories replaced ovens. Consistency replaced wisdom. Bread became something to scale. And with scale came separation. The baker no longer knew the grain. The grain no longer knew the soil. To compensate, nutrients were added back artificially. Enrichment replaced integrity. But nutrients are not just substances. They are interactions. Minerals need context. Fiber needs structure. Fermentation needs time. Remove the process, and no amount of fortification restores what was lost. The modern body is resilient. It adapts impressively. But adaptation is not the same as thriving. When bread digests too quickly, blood sugar spikes. Energy rises, then crashes. When fermentation is absent, gut bacteria struggle. Inflammation increases subtly. Fatigue becomes familiar. This isn't a crisis. It's a pattern. A quiet erosion of steadiness. People blame themselves. They eat less. Try harder. Search for discipline. But the problem was never willpower. It was an alignment. The answer is not restriction. It's remembering. Bread that ferments slowly. Grain that remains whole. Processes that respect time. These aren't diets. They are patterns. Eat food that looks like food. That requires patience. That resists speed. You don't need to live like a medieval farmer, but you can eat like someone who understood the body was not a machine. It was a relationship. Progress is not always forward. Sometimes it's sideways. Sometimes it's backward. And sometimes, it's simply forgetting something essential. Bread once carried culture, health, and survival. Now it carries convenience. The body notices the difference, even if the mind doesn't. The past is not asking us to return. It's asking us to remember. If you want to keep exploring the truths modern life forgot, subscribe and stay with us.